Welcome, everybody, again to the second episode of a Ringside Rewind podcast with Matt and Andre. I am your co host, Andre, alongside with my other co host, the great Matt. Matt, go and say hello to our wonderful listeners and viewers.
Yes, thank you guys very much. Thank you for the support from episode 1, and it's an honor to be with you again, Andre. It's an honor to be with you here for episode 2 and talking about the stuff we love, pro wrestling.
Yeah, again, like what Matt said, and I'm just going to reiterate, thank you guys so much for the love and support. You guys have been phenomenal. Just being able to comment, interact with us, and watch us, honestly. And the fact that you guys just went out and showed full support. Episode 1 is phenomenal, and we can't wait to see what goes on for the next 50 weeks we have left in the year. Like I said, we're going to make this a weekly thing. We're just excited to talk wrestling with you guys every week. First and foremost, what we want to do is we want to say get well to our friend, Tantalizing Tony. For those who know him, he was involved in an unfortunate rear end accident, car accident. He's currently in the hospital. He's doing all right, but we want to send him best wishes and hopefully he gets well soon. He's got a wonderful event coming up here with the Royal Rumble. He's going to be attending that. So, yeah, we just want to send him best wishes.
I can't echo that. Tony, sending prayers to you, fast and speedy recovery. He's a friend of the podcast, so we wish him a best recovery.
Absolutely. So, first and foremost, what we do want to talk about is Monday Night Raw, the first Raw on Netflix for the year. And first and foremost, the match that we started off with tonight was the Rhea Ripley, Io Sky tag team match against the Kabuki Warriors. Obviously, that night was Stranger Things themed. Lots of shenanigans, what we kind of expected. From what I recall, last podcast episode, you said that the Kabuki Warriors were going to retain. They ended up not retaining.
I was wrong. I was wrong.
Yeah. So what were your thoughts on that match? What were your thoughts on that match, man?
Those 4 ladies put on a phenomenal performance, as we knew they were. We knew they were going to go in there and tear the house down and really show Brooklyn what's up. I was shocked. I was shocked at the ending. I was shocked that they lost the titles. I actually thought we would see a little bit more shenanigans with the Stranger Things theme for the night. Unfortunately, that really didn't play well for WWE. I mean, it just didn't click. And I know there's a lot of comments online on that Stranger Things. But as in for the women's tag team title match, I was wrong. But now I just say, what's the next step? You know, we've seen Rhea and Io have their thing. So what's next, right? What's next for the Kabuki Warriors? What's next for Charlotte and Alexa? What's next for Nia Jax and Lash Legends? You know, they're all wanting the titles as well. Plus, we got the Rumble coming up with the Women's Rumble. So I don't know. I don't know where we go from here. Maybe we see a turn. Maybe Io is not Rhea's best friend. I don't know. I was shocked on the whole match. But as in the wrestling performance, phenomenal.
Yeah. Obviously, I was right. I knew it was going to happen. You know, obviously, you want to kick off.
You called it.
You want to kick off the year with something that people want, and that was one thing that I for sure wanted.
But I thought it would be expected. That's why I went the other opposite way.
True. So, no, I thought it was a phenomenal match. I'm really glad we were able to see them get the championships. It's going to be very interesting to see where Io and Rhea go from here as the tag champions. Obviously, they've been rivals for the longest time. So it's kind of cool to see, you know, them as tag champs. Obviously, the chemistry they have, they're both fan favorites. So I'm really glad I'm really happy for the result. I'm glad we were able to see that match to kick off the show as well. But also to reiterate the whole Stranger Things theme. I was very disappointed with it. Besides the fact that it was a cool stage, obviously had a lot of Stranger Things props and all that.
They turned it upside down.
In my opinion, it was not played off well. In my perspective, I thought they were going to bring at least some cast members from the show, or at least put them in a segment or, you know, a vignette, something of that sort. But none of that even happened. So,
you know, another thing I thought related to that theme is I thought maybe we would see some kind of matches related to it. and kind of like if you remember the Raw roulette, whenever they were in Vegas, they spun the wheel and they had Raw roulette, something along those lines, other than Michael Cole and Corey Graves coming out of the van and them turning the set over. I really didn't understand what the theme was, like, okay, if I'm not a Stranger Thing fan, I would have been like, what's this have to do with me?
Yeah. Honestly, I wish it was pulled off better. Obviously, we know now going forward that if Raw does a collaboration with a TV show that's on Netflix, it's nothing more than just a marketing ploy just to promote the show and the season. So, yeah.
Maybe in the future they'll do Squid Games.
Oh, that'd be interesting. That'd be very interesting to see if they would do Squid Games. I would like to see that, not going to lie. And I hope they do it better if they do that. So the next thing I want to move on to was the Becky Lynch versus Maxine Dupree for the Women's Intercontinental Championship.
I was wrong on that too, Andre. Last week I called it for Maxine Dupree. I thought maybe that she would make Becky tap out or something. I knew shenanigans would be involved in that as well. But the fact that Becky won, she didn't win clean, but I was wrong on that one too. I was shocked.
I was wrong on that as well. I thought Maxine was going to retain. Nonetheless, I like seeing both of them compete. Loves Maxine's reign as the IC champ, but Becky got the better of her. Going to be interesting to see now who she feuds with next, who's going to be the next challenger for the IC title. Obviously, like we know, that's the workhorse title. So it'll be interesting to see who's going to be the next person to challenge Becky for the title. Moving on, we want to move on to the fact that Javon Evans is now the newest member of Raw. I really hate the fact that they promoted this and showed this during a commercial break.
Yeah.
International viewers were able to see this because international Netflix is a lot different than US Netflix. Netflix has ads still. So I'm a little ticked off the fact that we didn't get to see that. However, we do have Javon Evans on Monday Night Raw going forward.
And unless you watched it like that, you didn't know. You had to see the clips. You had to go back and see it. You had to go back and see Javon Evans's posting or Adam Pearce's posting. But the way they did it was really cool. Adam Pearce came out to the stage. They shook hands. He signed the contract. I think they should have showed that. I think they should have showed that on TV for all of us to see here in the United States. I also would have liked him to sign the contract and then boom, something lead into it, right? So he has a rival going into next week because now he's just floating. He's just floating around. Do we know that Javon Evans is going to be a good asset for Monday Night Raw? Of course. We've seen what he done in NXT. Your boy is bouncy. So we know he's going to do something out there, but it wouldn't have been cool if he would have been attacked by somebody or signed a contract and then pushed down or called out on something. Then it would have led us to a next step for Javon Evans, but they didn't even show anything. It was all done during the commercial break.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not really fond of the fact that they did it during a commercial break. In my opinion,
they do that a lot now.
No, they really do. And honestly, it's to the point where we've been a year here on Netflix. What is the point of putting Raw on Netflix if we're still going to have ad breaks? So I get, obviously they need their money, but it's like, come on, we can do better here. And that should have been something that should have been seen by the whole world.
Yeah.
So moving on. Yeah, it's stupid, but we move on. And last but not least, obviously, we have the World Heavyweight Championship match between CM Punk and Braun Breaker. Matt, what are your thoughts on that match?
I loved it. I was hooked from the time the bell rang, from the entrances until the last 3 count. I loved it. We both predicted last week that we thought CM Punk was going to retain it, and we were both right on that. I was hoping for a little bit more shenanigans. I know I wanted Brock Lesnar to show up. You talked about Roman Reigns, our tribal chief, showing up. None of that happened. No mention of those top superstars. We did get to see some shenanigans with Penta and Rey Mysterio. And then, of course, Logan Paul and Austin Theory got involved, which kind of we saw was predictable that was going to happen. So I'm sure it's going to lead into some kind of a tag match with those 4 gentlemen, which I look forward to seeing too. I think those 4 guys could put on a show. I'm a big Penta fan, of course, from my youth. I'm a big Rey Mysterio fan. So Hall of Famer Rey Mysterio. But As in the match itself with Breaker and Punk, loved it. Thought it was great. I thought it was an opening for Braun Breaker. I think we're going to see something new from Braun Breaker. I think he's going to hold the Vision accountable for the fact that he lost. That's my prediction. And maybe see him stray away from Logan Paul and Austin Theory. That's what I'm guessing.
Yeah, no, it's going to be really interesting to see what goes on moving forward from the match. And obviously, like I said, we both knew that CM Punk was going to retain his first title defense. So there was no way in heck that he was just going to lose it just like that, So glad to see that he retained. Where do we go with Braun Breaker? Where do we see that go for him? Where does he win the Royal Rumble? There's a lot of questions surrounding that. It's going to be just really intriguing to see what exactly happens to the Vision. Obviously, there's a lot of question marks that I have.
Speculation out there.
Yes.
Where's Seth?
Yes, where's Seth? Yeah.
He had a shoulder surgery. Where does it lead? I think I've read, and I think you've seen some stuff about Austin Theory. Is Austin Theory working for Seth? Mm-hmm. Is he their little inside man inside the Vision? There's just so much you could do with that. I can honestly say, I think I see Braun separating himself. I'm not saying stepping completely out, but there's going to be some friction there. I think he's going to be upset that they got involved. I think he's going to be upset that Paul Heyman got involved. Punk knocked out Paul Heyman. He gave him a good right, knocked him off the apron. I think that's going to bother Braun. I think he's going to look at it and go, hey, I could have done this without you guys. I could have done this without you getting involved. I want to do it. And I think somewhere Braun Breaker wants to win. I think he wants to win clean.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as soon as he does win the title, whether that be the World Heavyweight Championship, whether it's the WWE Championship, I could definitely see him moving forward, having a reign just as dominant as Gunther, honestly. And so,
but as a babyface,
you think he's going to be a babyface at some point?
I do. I don't know if that's coming this year. Mark my word, people. Promise me that we'll look back on episode 2 here of the Ringside Rewind. I do. I see him running as a babyface. I see him being a cash cow when it relates to merch. They could do so much with his character, and everybody ends up turning on Paul Heyman anyway, right? Punk did,
right?
Roman did, Brock Lesnar did, Seth did. Everybody that Paul Heyman's ever managed or helped, whether or not he was the wise man or the oracle, they've turned on him.
Right.
So I could see something like that happening. I don't know if it's right now, but very soon in Braun Breaker's professional career, I could see that happening.
Yeah. So absolute banger of a match, in my opinion.
It's great.
How would you rate that out of 10?
I'm going to give it a 7.5.
I would give it.
And here's why. 7.5 out of 10, because we already know that those two could go out there and put on a match. And I think Braun, I think they probably could have went another 5-6 minutes and it would have been great. I would have liked to see more. I would have liked to see a bigger shock leading into the Royal Rumble. And that would have been the return of the Beast, Brock Lesnar, or Roman Reigns.
Absolutely. Well, it's going to be interesting to see. I cannot say that word for some reason tonight. I think it's the sickness getting to me. But it's going to be very interesting to see what moves forward from Monday night and where we go heading into tomorrow night. So moving on, I do want to mention before we head into obviously the most recent episode of SmackDown, little honorable mention of NXT New Year's Evil.
It was a good show.
It was a good show. I love NXT. Obviously, I'm a huge NXT fan, as you know. But I do want to have a little mention. Thea Hale was obviously defeated by Izzy Dame. Thea Hale had a very controversial win with the women's North American Championship a couple weeks ago. The way that she had won, whether or not the opponent that she had was fully pinned down on the mat. Regardless, she had the title for a couple weeks, ran with it, and now is no longer the champion. Izzy Dame is. And Izzy Dame, I don't know if you know, but Izzy Dame is actually dating Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar, Braun Breaker. Sorry, I'm getting my Braun's a little mixed up.
Sable.
Yeah, Sable. I know, right? I got that mixed up. There's too many Brauns. Bronson, Braun, like I said last episode, I'm like,
triple
I'm getting confused at this point. Triple B's, right? And then on top of that, too, we ended the night with Obafemi versus Leon
Yeah.
Slater. Banger of a match. Love that
Great
match.
match. Loved it.
The caveat, however, was the fact that Obafemi vacated the title, left the title on the floor, and we saw that little segment. I don't know if you caught it,
I
but
did.
just the title, no longer with him in sight. Where do you see Obafemi going? And do you think that he possibly gets his get back with Drew? Obviously, we know that Obafemi and Cody
Oh,
Rhodes
that's
faced off each
right.
other at Saturday
Yeah.
Night's main event. Does he go to SmackDown and go after Drew McIntyre, or do we see Jacob Fatu make that move first, or do we see Obafemi possibly make? Obviously, we don't see him for the next couple of weeks, and we see him obviously go out to the Royal Rumble and dominate. And who knows? He might possibly win it.
There's a lot there to digest there. I did see it. I've seen people vacate titles in the middle of the ring. I've seen it as a statement, and I think that's what Obafemi was making that night. I don't think we see him on TV until the Royal Rumble. I don't think it's that time yet to even put him in the same conversation with Drew McIntyre or Jacob Fatu or Cody. Not yet. I do think that we see him at the Rumble. I think he dominates at the Rumble. And then, unfortunately, I think he gets eliminated at the Rumble. Where brand he shows up on, they're teasing us on both. They're showing vignettes of him going to Raw. They show him on vignettes on SmackDown. So I don't know what direction he goes.
Where do you think he's going to end up?
I probably think Monday Night Raw.
Raw?
I think Monday Night
Raw.
SmackDown.
I think SmackDown.
You look at the rosters right now; they're pretty equal. But when you get a fan base, like I was going to save this, but maybe I should say it now. SmackDown beat Raw this week, and I know we're not there yet, but to me, SmackDown was a better show. And here's the thing: I'll go on record and say, as a wrestling fan of many years, I'm not pro of a 3-hour taping. I think 2 hours is the perfect time, and I have reasons to, we could discuss that later. But I think 3 hours is a lot, and I've heard Triple H say that. Content creation and creating storylines and all that for 3 hours, it's a hard task for them. But I honestly think that I see Obafemi. I think he goes to Raw, and where he goes to feud on Raw, man, could you picture him against Brock Lesnar?
That would be a great match to see.
Could you picture him eliminating Brock Lesnar at the Rumble? And it's Brock.
That would be a sight to see.
Brock and Obi in Vegas. That's my money.
It's almost as if, obviously, the tenacity that Obafemi reminds me of is Omos, but obviously we haven't seen Omos in a minute. I think Obafemi is a bigger star, obviously, than Omos, but I definitely see Obafemi being one of the main wrestlers to carry the future. Him, Braun Breaker, Ilya, those are some Gunther, obviously. I see those figures as people that are going to definitely lead out this next generation of wrestling. And so I'm excited to see what he pulls out of the bag, what show he goes on.
I'm going for Raw Monday night. My money's on Monday Night Raw. And once again, I don't think we see him until the Rumble match. I think he'll be off TV until then, because it's going to leave us hanging, right? He left the title there. The show went off the air.
I agree.
And then all of a sudden his musical hit at the Rumble.
Yep. And obviously we'll have an episode right before the Rumble with our predictions.
Oh, absolutely.
But
so stay tuned.
He's one of my favorites, that's for sure. So moving forward, obviously we want to talk about the show of SmackDown, obviously the most recent one that occurred. We saw a lot of great things happen. Obviously we'll touch base with the main one at the very end. But we saw that obviously Julia retained her U.S. title against Alexa Bliss. I kind of saw that happening, honestly.
With shenanigans, people got involved.
Yeah.
Did you see Nia was playing mind games with Alexa about Charlotte?
Yes,
while she was on the phone with her. She should have been here. Is she really sick? Playing off the mind games. But of course, Alexa took the pin.
Yeah. I'm hoping for a better U.S. title reign for Julia. Julia was a prominent figure on NXT when she was there. So I'm hoping for a better run. I just hate the fact that there hasn't been a lot of crowd engagement with her whenever she's
Mm-mm.
come out with her and Kiana James. I really want to see something more. And I really do think I'm kind of thinking opposite end of the spectrum here with your opinion on the 3 hours, but I think 3 hours is perfect, especially
Okay.
due to the fact that it gives you more opportunities for storylines for a lot of the mid card talent and put them out there and obviously push them so that way they get into the main event talent, the main event level. So I'm glad that they're going back to 3 hours. I'm glad that they are back. Obviously, it's not going to probably last until
No, they
maybe
already
July like they
announced.
did last time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they already announced it. Yeah, it's
yeah,
gonna be at the end of June, going into
yeah,
July. They'll go back to
yeah,
2, and that's some kinda deal they probably have with USA and the networks and stuff like that. But,
yeah,
I heard Triple H say a long time ago, it's hard to create that much
yeah,
television.
yeah,
It's a lot that goes into producing and directing and putting together a 3-hour show,
yeah,
and I think you could do a lot in 2. The
yeah.
original SmackDown was always 2 hours, the original Raw was always 2 hours, but, if it works, it works.
If it doesn't, it doesn't.
It doesn't, right?
So the next subject I want to touch base on. So we saw the match between Jordan Grace and Alba Fire. Obviously, it was just a powerhouse showcase of what Jordan Grace has to offer with her being on SmackDown. And then as soon as we saw her defeat Alba Fire, and as she was walking back to gorilla position, we saw obviously Jade Cargill come out and have them kind of
Yeah.
face off. I personally would like to see that match obviously happen. Two powerhouse stars like Jade Cargill, like Jordan Grace, going at it against each other.
For the title?
I think we see it for the title at some point. Obviously, there was a little bit of a teaser for us to see them square off against each other. Jordan Grace's work in TNA has been phenomenal. Obviously, Jade Cargill has vastly improved herself
Found
ever since
herself
she
when
made
she's
her
a
debut.
heel. Yep.
Yes, and I'm glad she's a heel because she's perfect.
Yeah,
Ever
she
since
plays
she
it well.
arrived to WWE, I'm like, she needs to be a heel. Obviously, she was a lot of crowd engagement was involved with her. She was the baby face. Obviously, had the tag titles with Bianca. But I'm glad she's a heel. She's a heel character by definition of what a female heel wrestler looks like. She's the perfect example. So
let me throw this out to you, brother. Why do you think all the stars that have been around for years on the female division, on the women's division, Rhea, Io Sky, Alexa, Charlotte, Nia, all these female wrestlers that we've followed over the last 2 or 3 years are all over there fighting for the tag titles? But we have these new up and coming stars. I don't mean to cut you off. Or new up and coming stars looking at the women's title with Jade Cargill. Why are we going that direction? Are we done with Rhea looking at the title belts?
I don't think we're done. I think what it really is just to add another dimension, another layer to their character. Just to show that they're more than just individual wrestlers, that they can work with people. Like, for example, obviously this Rhea and Io, they're bitter rivals. Obviously,
Right.
Rhea's never defeated Io one-on-one, but then obviously them together, they have great chemistry. And so I think it's just another way for us to see another dimension of them as tag team champions. Obviously, if you remember, we saw Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso have that short tag team title reign.
Yeah,
well,
I
they
remember that.
won it way back. Was it Fastlane or something like that a couple years ago?
2004, I believe.
2000.
It was before he won the belt from Roman.
2024. I think it's 2003.
2024. Excuse me. Yeah, it's before he won. Before he beat Roman.
Yeah.
So, I remember their press conference. That was the funniest thing.
Obviously, that was the one that was most memorable. But I think it's just more so just to add another dimension and layer to their character development and to their accomplishments. So I think that's what it is.
Can you remember when it started? Was when Tiffany Stratton went down with an injury.
Yeah, and obviously we haven't seen
saw
Tiffany.
A big shift in the women's division.
And so obviously follow Tiffany obviously on social media. She looks good. Obviously, I think we see her return at the Royal Rumble. So we'll see what goes from there. And who knows? She might win the whole thing. Like I said, I'm excited for our Royal Rumble podcast episode because that's where we're going to talk about and the ways, the avenues, the pathways we can go with that. And so I'm excited nonetheless for that event. Moving on, I do want to quickly touch on the fact that obviously Trick Williams had his official
Yes.
match for SmackDown with Ray Phoenix. Obviously, we saw him defeat Ray Phoenix. Great match. Obviously, two really great wrestlers. Trick Williams is phenomenal on the mic. Obviously, he went out and interrupted Randy Orton during that
Yeah.
opening segment.
You know what? For Trick Williams, I was shocked when that music hit. I literally stood up and I was like, are you serious? He's interrupting the Viper, a 14-time champion. This newbie has loved it. I love the fact that he swatted the mic out of Orton's hand. I love how he stood his ground with Randy Orton. That's going to be interesting to see. And I think Trick Williams has his time. I think he's going to be a phenomenal asset to SmackDown. Of course, he's playing the heel Trick Williams by defeating Ray Phoenix, not clean. But I think he pulled the tights and got the 3 count holding the tights. But the fact that they let him go out there and literally just go face to face on the microphone with Randy Orton, on Randy Orton's second SmackDown back. Wow. And that was the opening segment. Like I said, I was shocked, loved it. 5 stars, 5 fingers up. I'm a Trick Williams fan. I think him and Orton going at it, or even if they just have that little stare down rivalry, you pick the guy to pick a fight with, it's the Viper.
Absolutely. And honestly, I'm really glad to see that we're seeing that dynamic happen because as you can tell, Triple H's formula is once they make their debut on one of the main shows, they're having a veteran help them out and kind of guide them and show them the ropes. And I really like the fact that they're doing that because not only is it a way for them to get exposure, but it's a way to get them over with the fans. And, you know, we've seen it, you know, happen multiple times throughout this past year, ever since really Triple H took over, right? We've seen this formula happen and it's worked. So I'm really glad he got that, even though it was short and long, you know, and the seeds were planted for that.
No RKO. He did
match.
RKO in vintage
No
Randy
RKO.
Orton DDT, but no RKO. But what'd you think when he swatted the mic?
It was crazy. I was in shock. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, dang, okay, we're gonna go there. We're gonna go there. So honestly,
at first I thought, look, kid, do you know who you're talking to?
Right. No, exactly. But hey, that's his debut on the main roster, Trick Williams, is long overdue, in my opinion. Obviously, he won the TNA championship. He had won the NXT championship a couple times, you know, and so for him to finally be on the main roster, I'm glad it's finally happening. We're finally get to see him showcase. And as you can see, Def Rebel, listen, if they did one thing good, which obviously is the people that produce the music for everybody's entrances, they made Trick Williams' music perfect because you see the crowd engagement he has along the aura that he has. Yeah. Yes, even as a heel, the whole crowd is chanting "Whoop that Trick." So glad to see that. Glad that he.
I loved how Orton told him, you know, I'm not going to whoop that Trick. I'm going to whoop that ass.
Yeah, right. So glad to see that happen. But finally, let's get to the meat and potatoes, the main match we want to talk about. Obviously, the Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre match, 3 stages of hell. Obviously, we saw the first match happen as a regular match, the second match as Falls Count Anywhere, and then third match was a steel cage, along with the addition of Jacob Fatu returning and interfering, and therefore holding Cody back in the corner, and Drew falling out of the cage and winning the title. Matt, thoughts?
You know, Andre, I don't even know where to begin. Like I said earlier, SmackDown stole this week's wrestling show. It beat Raw. You know, it beat Punk and Braun Breaker's match for the title. It was a shocker. You know, let's break that down one at a time, right? 3 stages of hell, Drew McIntyre, Cody Rhodes, their storyline, you know, him picking on Dusty Rhodes, burning the picture, holding up the watch from the pawn shop. The storyline was just hook, line, and sinker. Everybody's talking how they were just so anxious for this match. The fact that SmackDown went commercial free for the last hour because of the match, I thought was great. I thought the crowd in Germany really came alive for them. And you know that Drew's over there; he's from the Scotland area, but in Europe they really come alive for Drew McIntyre. But the one thing I loved is that you look at the first match. A lot of people say Drew cheated. I don't think so. He held on to that turnbuckle and he fell back, and the turnbuckle came off. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. He didn't undo the turnbuckle ropes. He grabbed it and it fell back. Then, in that process, he did the low blow. So I guess you cheated. I don't know. Then the Claymore, 1, 2, 3. I didn't think Drew was going to get the first fall. I thought he would win in Falls Count Anywhere, and then I thought he was going to win it in the cage. Falls Count Anywhere match, great, all around the arena. And then, of course, Crossroads on the table to get the 3. And then lastly, the cage match, perfectly fought cage match for the few minutes, back and forth with their finishing maneuvers, throwing each other against the cage, smashing each other against the cage. And then, of course, that look when Jacob Fatu was standing at the door and Drew looked like he saw a ghost. I'm going to take this a different direction. What if it wasn't Drew that attacked Jacob? What if it was Cody? If you remember when Jacob went down a few months ago, him and Cody had a little biff. What if we're seeing a different side of Cody Rhodes? What if we're seeing something that we're all thinking it's Drew? What if Jacob came back for Cody?
And that is another layer that I want to see. I want to see heel Cody Rhodes. I think this is the perfect opportunity to do it. This is the perfect opportunity to do it, in my opinion, because one, like I said, another layer. I love seeing layers of character development within wrestlers, just like in stories, just regular stories, book stories. You know what I'm saying? I want to see that happen. And obviously, Cody's great on the mic. I think he'd be great on the mic as a heel. Do we see that happen? I don't know. But I would love to see that happen. I would love to see him be full on heel, not just cutthroat baby face, just like, oh, I'm doing all this good stuff. No, we've seen heel-ish things from him, obviously, in the past. Yeah. Obviously, when he's feuding with John Cena, we've seen him more do the edgier stuff, right?
Hit him with the belt?
Yeah. Right. And so I'm hoping that this is all leading up to that. Because I think it'd be a great way just to have a different side of him and see that. And I think that's a great point because I didn't really think about that. What if he's actually there for Cody? We don't think that he's there for Cody. He's actually there for Drew. So the fact that Jacob Fatu's back, where does he go from here? Does he, like I said, does he go through, go after Drew or does he go after Cody?
Tough choice there. Like I said, what if he was there for Cody Rhodes? What if we are all thinking, because Cody came from behind, and if you remember, Jacob threw an elbow and hit him with an elbow and then went to the corner and started going after him. That's when it allowed Drew the opportunity to slide through the cage and both feet touch the floor for winning the title. I think Jacob Fatu puts his sights on both of them. And I don't know if Cody deserves a rematch. Does he? Do we lead Cody into the Royal Rumble? Or what if Cody's the one that put Jacob on the shelf? They had a thing before Jacob went down. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but Jacob was coming for that belt.
Yeah, I think we had mistaken some teeth missing on the floor when we got written off. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens. But nonetheless, Drew McIntyre is our new WWE champion. I'm glad he finally got
me too.
Regaining of that title, because obviously last time we saw him be champion was during COVID, and then there was no pop for him. There was no crowd there for him. And so for him to finally win it, and in Europe as well, and the next night he actually went on tour and was in Glasgow, Scotland as the title holder. So I'm glad we're finally seeing this, because I think he's going to be a phenomenal champion. He's great on the mic. He has amazing matches that are so worth watching. I can't wait to see what happens with him.
I'm a Drew McIntyre fan, Andre. I have been since, believe it or not, if going back to the days, Drew McIntyre was Mr. McMahon's chosen one.
Yep.
So I go back to remembering that Drew McIntyre and the evolution of Drew McIntyre from being in 3MB, for doing all what he did, to being released, to working his way back to WWE. I think he makes a perfect heel. What if we see a shift? What if all of a sudden we're expecting heel Drew McIntyre? The crowd when they announced him as the winner, we were all shocked. I think everybody was in shock in the arena as well, right? They were shocked that the werewolf came back. They were shocked that he attacked Cody. Was it a mistake that he attacked Cody? I don't know. We'll see. But that crowd cheered when they said, "And your new WWE champion." That crowd went nuts. And there was a pop there, like you said. Same thing. He didn't get the pop when he won it at WrestleMania 40. 5 minutes later, he lost it on a cash-in to Damian Priest. So Drew McIntyre is a 3-time WWE champion now, and I think he's going to have that title for quite some time. And I think Drew McIntyre is going to headline WrestleMania.
I agree, and I really hope it happens because he deserved it. And so to follow up, obviously they announced the tournament, and I'm going to name off the matches here, and I'm going to give you, I'm going to shoot you a question in regards to the match and who you think is going to win, and we'll kind of just go from there. So obviously, predictions for the number one contender for the WWE Championship. First and foremost, we have The Miz versus Randy Orton. Who do you have for that match?
The Apex Predator, the Viper. These two are going to put on a hell of a match. I hope everybody is tuned into this. Unfortunately, I think The Miz will take the fall, but they've had a past. Miz has been hit with now 3 RKOs in the last 2 weeks, so we know he's a little hot about that. But I'm going to go with the 14-time champion Apex Predator, Randy Orton.
I'm going after Randy Orton as well. Obviously, we've seen so many segments, especially when Cody was the title holder. Obviously, when he was working with Cody, just little glances at the title, So
yeah,
let's see him go after Drew McIntyre, and if Drew is still champion, if that does happen, with Randy, I would love to see that match. I think it's going to be a phenomenal match. It's going to be a banger of a match. So the next one I have up here is Matt Cardona versus Trick Williams. Little veteran versus new school. Who do you have?
Woo, woo, woo. Trick Williams. I'm going to go with Trick Williams. I think he advances. I think it's going to be another fought match. I think it's going to be Trick Williams winning, not clean. Something's going to happen to Matt Cardona, aka Zack Ryder, and something will definitely take place. And Tricky's going to use his tricks to take the win and move on to the Fatal 4-Way. I'm going with Trick Williams.
Great minds think alike because I have Trick Williams as well going over for that match. The next one I have up is Damian Priest versus Solo Sikoa.
Ooh, Andre, this is where I'm torn. I think it's going to be another, like you say, banger of a match. But I'm going to go with Solo. And I'm going to say they're going to gradually try to move out of that. Though Solo did have we forget to mention Solo and the MFTs did have a nice little four-way tag team match against the Wyatt Six. He stole the lantern, which represents the spirit of Bray Wyatt. But I'm going to go Solo here. And I think somewhere Wyatt Six is probably going to be involved in this, but I'm going to go Solo Sikoa just because I like to see that.
Yeah. I'm actually going to go opposite of the fence here. I'm going to go Damian.
Okay.
Damian, we obviously saw, as much as I love Solo, don't get me wrong, I love Solo. I love his work on the mic. I love his work, obviously, with MFTs. A lot of people are like, oh, MFT. No, I love the MFTs, all right, first and foremost. But I think Damian's going to go over this match. We saw, obviously, Damian in his reign with the World Heavyweight Championship. I thought it was, for my opinion, I liked his reign. A lot of people maybe weren't a big fan of it. Obviously, he needed to cash in his Money in the Bank.
I didn't like the way it ended.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the way it ended, but I do think that it is time for him to be put back into the world title scene. Obviously, we saw him feud with Aleister Black.
Damian Priest.
A lot of people have ever since he moved to SmackDown.
Yeah,
I think his reign in SmackDown has been a bit lackluster. Obviously, we've seen him most recently, like I said, feud with Aleister Black and obviously with Zelina Vega. But
it dragged on. That's why
it did. And honestly, I'm ready to see him put back into the world title picture. And so I think I'm going to go with Damian in this. Last but not least, I am excited to see this match. But Sami Zayn versus Ilya Dragunov. I already know who I have, but who do you have, Matt?
Putting me on the spot again, Andre. I'm going to go with Sami Zayn.
Why?
Because I think it's his time to show that he deserves to be there. If you look at the class of NXT where he came up with Kevin Owens, the Finn Balor's, all them, that was during that time. He's the only one that doesn't have gold around his waist. Now, I'm not saying he's going to get gold yet, but I think he deserves to be in that picture. I think Dragunov's a phenomenal performer. I still see him in that mid card chasing the U.S. title, but do I think this is going to be one hell of a match? Yes. I'm going to go further. I think this goes on first, and I think this gives the people a treat. This is going to be in London, England. This is at a stadium, I believe. So I think this goes on first, and I think that this is going to tear it down, and these guys are going to put on one hell of a wrestling match. But I'm going to go Sami Zayn.
I have Ilya Dragunov. I love Ilya's technicality in the ring. Don't get me wrong. I know a lot of people have probably Sami. I know obviously you have Sami. But
it's his
I'm gonna
time
go with Ilya. Ilya to me is one of those cornerstone pieces that I think is going to lead the company into the future. I loved his feud that he had with Gunther, or also known as Walter, when he was in NXT. But Ilya is a great wrestler. I love how hard-hitting he is. I love every match that he puts on. Obviously, we saw him most recently lose the U.S. title to Carmelo Hayes. And don't get me wrong, Carmelo Hayes, he deserves it. Love Carmelo Hayes. I'm glad he's U.S. title.
I do too.
He has the U.S. title, but I think the reason why Carmelo is now the winner, has the title, is because it is time to put Ilya in that main event picture, to push him as that guy going after world titles and whatnot. And so Ilya, I'm really hoping he pulls off that win. I know you have Sami Zayn. But yeah, to me, it's going to be Ilya.
If I just feed off one last thing, I like Dragunov. I think he's a phenomenal performer. I think he's a high flyer. He's a pro wrestler. When you kind of like you say, like Gunther, different than a sports entertainer, right? And for me, I got to see more on the mic. I got to see more of a story. I got to get hooked. I look at it also like the line of the business. Can we sell Dragunov shirts? Can we, you know what I'm saying? Could he be a fan favorite like that? And I'm not saying that he's a phenomenal performer. I'm a fan of his. I'm the first one going to cheer for him. I just think it's Sami's time for this specific situation. And with that being said, I need to see more from Dragunov on the microphone. I need to see more of him telling me the story of who the character of Dragunov is.
No, I listen, Ilya, I know there hasn't been a lot of mic time with him, obviously.
No.
But he's a phenomenal in-ring performer. My thing with Sami is I feel like we've seen the same shtick from Sami for a while. It's the underdog character. And don't get me wrong, like, phenomenal in-ring performer. I think this is going to be one hell of a match.
Yes.
But I think that Sami needs a whole new gimmick, in my opinion. I think he needs a whole new character rework.
I mean, he was the honorary Uce.
He was. And I like that because we got to see more comedic, lighthearted Sami Zayn.
Cool,
we got to see obviously we got to see that comedy piece with the Bloodline when he was with the Bloodline, that
he got Roman the break.
that made the whole storyline of the Bloodline a lot better, way better. That's what everybody remembers. But I just think Sami, obviously he just needs a whole revamp of his character. I need to see more of him. We see the same stuff, but obviously you got Sami, I've got Ilya. It's gonna be very interesting.
Like I said, I think this goes on first for that stadium in London.
Yeah, and so who knows? Who knows what's gonna happen? Like I said, we have episode 2. You guys are seeing this right now. You see the predictions that we're making, and so other than that, that's what we have so far for episode 2. Final thoughts, Matt, on heading into next week. Obviously we got Monday Night Raw tomorrow, Friday Night Smackdown. Anything you want to add?
Tomorrow night on Monday Night Raw is live from Germany again. Nothing big has been announced. Actually, excuse me, we got AJ Styles versus Gunther tomorrow night on Monday Night Raw, and I'm sure that's going to probably be the main event. who knows how that's going to go with everything that just happened with Drew McIntyre and with Cody and with Braun and CM Punk. Kind of the AJ Styles and Gunther kind of thing kind of fell behind the scenes the last week. So I actually just popped in my head that match is scheduled for tomorrow night on Raw. I think Gunther's going to go over on the Phenomenal One. How that happens, I don't know. But I predict a very hell of a wrestling match between those two. Because once again, those are pro wrestlers.
And I'm looking forward to that match as well. I think, yeah, you're right. I think Gunther's going to go over. Who knows if it ends up being clean or people get involved. Obviously, we know that WWE likes to keep momentum going for both sides. They like to look, especially when you have the caliber of AJ Styles going up against Gunther. Obviously, they like to have both of them come out strong and on top and whatnot. But
and I'm thinking that's the main event.
I agree. I think that'll be main event worthy. But we'll see what happens. Obviously, I'm looking forward to seeing what this next week holds for us and for us to talk about. But other than that, this wraps up episode 2 of the Ringside Rewind podcast with both Matt and Andre. Thank you guys again for tuning in and listening to us and viewing us and sharing and whatnot.
Thank you all for your support. We appreciate it. We can't do this without your guys' support. So we appreciate it. And we look forward to our next time that you're with us.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to episode 3. We are 1 week closer to the Royal Rumble. And I can't wait to see. It is officially Road to WrestleMania season. So
96 days away, guys, to night 1.
Absolutely. And you will both, if you guys are listening here, watching us, you guys are going to definitely see us walk around in Vegas. So if you obviously see us at some point, say hi, we'll be there. So thank you guys again for watching, and we will see you guys next episode.
Thanks, y'all.